has this really cool squishy diagonal brioche, which is a very cool one color brioche texture. And it creates kind of like a diamond, waffle look. So I hope this is helpful for you, and here we go. Okay, I'm going to show you how to work diagonal brioche, which can be found in my Ahsoka pattern, and I'm showing it using my color A yarn, okay? And diagonal brioche is going to be found in stripe 3, as well as several other stripes throughout the shawl. And I just want to show what the fabric looks like. Okay, so here is stripe 3. Okay, so you're going to continue to have the shawl shaping at the edges and in the center. That's just going to be in stockinette. And then the diagonal brioche is a beautiful one color brioche texture that almost creates a diamond stitch pattern. I mean, I love the way it's kind of like a waffle look. And of course, we're continuing the diamond stitch pattern, which is inspired by Ahsoka's facial markings, as well as her wardrobe. So I'm going to show you how to work this stitch pattern. I've just cast on about 29 stitches to show you what the stitch pattern will look like with the shawl shaping. Okay, so just keep in mind that when you're knitting this, you'll have more stitches on your needles. So when you begin stripe 3, you will have 57 stitches on your needles. Okay, so you'll have a lot more. So hopefully this will help you work this stitch pattern. It's similar to other one color brioche textures where you're working brioche, kind of even brioche with the slip stitches and the yarn overs, but on one row, but on the other row you'll kind of slip the yarn over instead of working it with the stitch. Okay, so I'm going to work the setup row, so the increase row, which is setup row on the main side. Okay, and then I'll work. So basically what you're going to do is, because in brioche, every 2 rows, like every 2 worked rows, is equal to 1 complete brioche row, you'll actually only be working an increase row every 4 rows. Okay, so you'll work one with the setup row, and then you won't work another increased row until row 4, and then again at row 8. So this is an 8-row repeat because of how you're increasing your shawl. Okay, normally it would just be like a 2-row repeat if you were just working this flat. So hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to knit my first stitch. Again, we're on the setup row. This is not charted out. This is only in written instructions. Okay, then I'm going to work my slip, slip, knit for the decrease for the shawl shaping. So obviously you're only going to work the setup rows at the beginning of each diagonal brioche stripe, okay, because basically we need to put the brioche stitches on the needles. So now you're going to bring your working yarn to the front, and you're going to work purl 1, slip 1 YOF. Okay, so we're creating that brioche stitch there. You're going to repeat that to 1 stitch before the marker. Slip 1 YOF. Okay, so you'll end with slip 1 YOF. But what I do is, because you don't want to bring your working yarn back to the front, you'll actually work this as a slip 1 yarn over, because we're going to be working this as a knit yarn over knit for the increase. Slip the marker and knit the center stitch. Then you'll work knit, yarn over knit again. Remember, we're doing a mirror image. And now we'll bring our working yarn to the front and work slip 1 YOF, purl 1 to the last 3 stitches. So basically what we're doing is we're going to be working brioche with the slip 1 YOF and burp 1. We're just purling for this row because we're working a setup row on the main side. And then the contrast side is where you're going to kind of slip the yarn over to, which will create that really beautiful kind of diamond brioche, diagonal brioche. So I'm going to end with a purl 1, and then I'm going to bring my working yarn to the back and knit 2 together for the shawl shaping, and slip the last stitch with my yarn in front. Okay, so because this is 1 color brioche, we're turning, so there's no sliding back and forth like with 2 color brioche when you knit 2 color brioche flat. 1 color brioche, you still have to work, you know, every worked row is 2 rows, but you work it on either side. Okay, so now I'm going to work row 1. So the setup row was on the main side. Row 1 actually starts on the contrast side, okay? So just keep that in mind. Your odd numbered rows are going to be on your contrast side. And if it helps you, one of the things I like to do when I'm knitting a pattern like this where I have main side versus contrast side is you can place a removable marker on the main side of your work. So then you can kind of keep track of where you are. Okay, so basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be wherever, except for the first stitch, right? Because we want to keep that selvage edge going. We're going to be purling every single stitch on here. And when you come to the yarn overs, you're going to slip the yarn over knitwise. So we're kind of ignoring the yarn overs. So I'm going to knit the first stitch, and then I'm going to purl 2. So we're kind of working like the background. So when I come to this, so here's a brioche stitch, okay? So if it looks like, you know, if it looks like this on your needles, kind of like 2 stitches, kind of turn it around to the back and you can see how it's the yarn over is wrapping that stitch, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slip this yarn over knitwise. So that's what that abbreviation means, SLYOK. I'm going to slip my yarn over knitwise. So I'm going to put my needle in as if to knit and slip it, because what you want to do is you want to give that yarn over a twist. Now I'm just going to purl 2. So I'm going to go and look at that again. So looking back at this brioche stitch, okay? So this is the brioche stitch right here. The yarn over is still kind of wrapping that stitch, but it looks a lot different. So when you come back to work that on the next row, I'll show you how to work that because it can be a little confusing. So again, I'm going to slip yarn over knitwise and purl 2. And so now I've come to where the increased stitches were and the center stitch. So I'm just going to purl all of these stitches, including the center stitch. Slip the marker, and I'm going to purl these over the increased stitches from the previous row. And now I've come to a brioche stitch, so I'm just going to slip that yarn over knitwise, purl 2, and repeat that to the last 2 stitches. Okay, here's my last one. I'm going to slip that knitwise and purl to the last stitch. Slip the last stitch with my yarn in front. Okay, so let's take a look at these stitches on our needles. Okay, they're going to look really funky. They're going to look a lot different than a traditional brioche stitch, okay? Because we basically twisted that yarn over. So it's not going to be laying like a normal brioche stitch would be laying, and that's okay. That's how it's supposed to look. So let's work row 2 together so that I can show you how to I'm trying to look at the stitch pattern right there. You know, so you can see how to work that brioche stitch, because now we're going to work knit 3, and that's kind of for our edges, for our kind of stockinette edge, so we can have the decrease there. And now I've come to a burp 1, okay? So this is the brioche stitch. This is the stitch that you previously purled, and this is the yarn over that you slipped knitwise. So you can see how it's completely different. It's almost not even wrapping that slip stitch anymore. But I'm going to bring my working yarn to the front, okay, between the needles. So all you have to do is basically kind of think of it as like purl 2 together, okay? So even though the abbreviations say burp 1, you're going to brioche purl this stitch and this yarn over together. Okay? And now you'll work the slip 1 YOF, because we want to have a brioche stitch on this stitch now. We're kind of flip-flopping, okay? And now I've come to that weird looking burp 1 again. So it can be kind of tricky, like you can kind of like shimmy your needle in there. Burp 1, slip 1 YOF, burp 1, and you'll work that to 2 stitches before your next marker. Okay, remember we don't have any increases or decreases in this row. Burp 1. And now I'm going to just purl this stitch. I'm sorry, this is a slip 1 Y off. And then I'm going to purl. And now I'm just going to knit that stitch. Slip the marker, knit the center stitch, and then knit the next stitch. And then now remember we're doing a mirror image. So I'm going to purl 1, slip 1 YOF, because remember our fabric is growing on this side and then it's kind of decreasing away. That's growing in the center. So now here I am at the brioche stitch again. Burp 1, slip 1 YOF, burp 1, and you'll repeat that to the last 3 stitches. You'll end with a burp 1. And then you'll knit 2 and slip 1 with yarn in front. Okay, so then row 4, row 3 is going to be worked exactly like row 2, except your yarn overs are going to just be in a different place, okay? Because you're basically like alternating when you're creating the yarn over, so that that is what creates kind of that diagonal brioche look. Okay, so you can see here, this is a brioche stitch. The brioche stitch looks normal, right? You've got the yarn over and the slipped stitch, and it looks like a traditional brioche stitch. So then you'll slip them knitwise again, and then row 4 will be an increase row, but then you'll just work those burp stitches identically to the way you did on row 2. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And, you know, just remember, keep in mind that it might take several rows for the stitch pattern to look like mine. I did include a photo, kind of a close-up photo of what my fabric looks like in the pattern. So hopefully that helps you. So next I'm going to show the diamond lace stitch pattern that will be in the next couple of stripes. Okay, so hopefully that helps, and please let me know if you have any questions about Diagonal Brioche.